extremely frustrated. They're using every legal trick they have. They're getting angrier and angrier. And then they cross the line between what is lawful and permissible and what is impermissible. And that's a gray line. We're going to talk about that today. And coerce confession of an innocent person. But see, getting a confession or getting an admission is not enough to get a conviction. Once the suspect says, I did it, that's only half the ballgame. They need to be able to provide details of how the crime occurred that only the true perpetrator would know. They need to have specialized or inside knowledge of how that crime occurred. That's how you separate true from false confessions. The innocent person is not going to give you a confession that he stabbed someone to death when the autopsy report says that she was strangled to death. So it's the way that law enforcement tests the validity of confessions. It's the way that experts test the validity of confessions. But the third error is probably the most dangerous error of all, and that's the contamination error. Because unless you have an electronic recording of the entire process, there's no way to know whether the final confession, which is often very rich in detail, whether the information of that confession came from the suspect or was suggested to the suspect by his or her employer. And that's the contamination. And we see this in every one of the proven false confession cases. So let's start with the first error, because in some ways this is the easiest error to fix. And it could stop false confessions before they happen if police officers would be retrained. The first error is called misclassification error, and it's a decision, like I said, that the interrogator makes that an innocent person is actually guilty. And how do they gauge that decision? How do they make that call? Well, you would hope they would make that call based on evidence. You would hope that they would pick somebody up on the basis of some witness statement or other piece of evidence that leads them to suspect them of a crime. And many times they do. But what happens in the misclassification error is that police officers often have reason to suspect somebody, but not enough evidence to prove their guilt. And then they start to make judgment calls about that person's innocence or guilt based upon their observations of his or her behavior, his or her demeanor. They think that they're able to detect whether or not someone is telling you the truth or a lie based upon a series of behaviors, both verbal and nonverbal. And they are trained to believe that they are expert at this. In fact, the leading police trainers in the United States, right here in Chicago, John Reed and Associates, claims that if you use their behavior analysis program, you can detect deception at a rate of 85%. So what do they do that goes wrong? Where do they make a mistake? Well, there are three kinds of behavior: verbal behavior, nonverbal behavior, and what they call paralinguistic behavior, which is about the response length, the response delivery, or the continuity of the response. What does a truthful suspect look like? Well, many of you, if I looked at you right now, would be liars. You have to be sitting upright. You have to be open and relaxed. You got your hands crossed. You're guilty. You lean forward on occasion. You're frontally aligned with the viewer. You have casual posture changes. That's the truthful suspect. The deceptive suspect is everything that's opposite. Slouching, frozen, non-front aligned, barrier posture, rapid posture changes. The truthful suspect is composed, concerned, realistic, cooperative, direct, spontaneous, open and helpful, sincere and confident. The deceptive suspect is overly anxious, unconcerned, uncooperative, guarded, hesitant, rationalizing, unhelpful, insincere, defeated. What about the things that the innocent people would say versus the things that the guilty people would say? Well, they're trained that there are certain kinds of denials that are indicative of deception. So instead of saying, I honestly wouldn't do that, or I swear to God I didn't do this, those things indicate guilt. You have to simply say, I never did this, I had nothing to do with this, and repeat that over and over again. That little twist in language, the qualifying phrase, I swear to God I didn't do it, or I honestly didn't do it, is supposed to separate the innocent from the guilty. There are other kinds of words that we can talk about. So, they come into this process, they're not sure whether the person is guilty, they have a suspicion he's guilty, they're judging his behavior, they're judging the answers to their questions, and they're beginning to get a picture that convinces them that this person is guilty. Now, what does this mean when they make this misclassification error? Well, the misclassification error is often the basis for launching into the second error, the coercion error. Interrogation is a guilt presumptive process, and police officers do not launch into an interrogation, at least this is what they say, unless they are fairly confident that the person they are going to interrogate is guilty. And oftentimes the basis for that is this body language, verbal behavior. So what do we know about accuracy? Well, despite what John Reed and Associates says, we know that virtually every study shows that people are lie detectors. That show lie to me. Maybe there are some people, maybe there are a very small subgroup of people who are able to detect deception and better than chance. But most of us are unable to figure out who's lying to us and who's not better than 60% of the time. There's no specific human behavior psychological response that is unique to deception. What may look like a lie to one person could simply be anxiety or stress on the part of another person. The biggest problem is because of training outfits like John Reed and Associates, and because of police officers' belief that they can tell whether or not you're lying or not, it increases their confidence in the accuracy of these judgments. And you will see that because they think you're guilty, they think they're entitled to interrogate you in an extremely aggressive manner. And that belief in your guilt colors everything that happens thereafter. The most compelling case of misclassification is the case of Jerry Hobbs. This is a case from suburban Lake County here in Zion, where Jerry Hobbs was arrested and charged with the murder of his daughter Laura Hobbs and her best friend Crystal Tobias. This is how misclassification error led to the wrongful arrest of Hobbs. So here we go, back to Mother's Day of 2005. Laura Hobbs and Jade Crystal Tobias, age 9, go for a bike ride near a forest reserve in Zion, Illinois. They don't return home. And Jerry Hobbs, who is recently released from a Texas prison, come home to his family to reconnect with them. And his wife are freaking out. They spend the night searching for the girls, and then they get neighbors involved in the search, and they get police involved in the search. And after a night of searching for his daughter, the next morning Hobbs spots their blanks near a portion of the forest reserve. And as he approaches the blanks, he sees every father's nightmare. These girls had essentially been butchered. They were covered with blood. He didn't want to get any closer to them because it was an awful crime scene. He knew that they were dead. So he alerted the police. The police come to the crime scene, and they asked Hobbs if he'll come down for some questions. wants to find out what happened to his daughter. 21 hours later, confession is made. So why did police suspect Hobbs? Now, some of it had to do with his behavior, but there are other misclassification errors, and many of these are based on similar police mythologies. Hobbs was the father of the victims, okay? It's true that police always consider family members persons of interest in a crime. But it doesn't mean that that happens all the time. There are plenty of cases involving strangers who abduct children, who don't, and sexually assault them, and where they don't involve family members. Hobbs discovered the victims' bodies. Well, you know, the person who discovers the victims' bodies, another police mythology is that person may have had something to do with it. It's a little red flag. It's not a big red flag. Hobbs stated he saw the girls' bodies from 30 feet away, that he could tell they had been killed and he refused to approach them. Well, police were upset by this. Police expected Hobbs to rush over to the girls and to check on them to see if they were still breathing. That's the way they believed that a mourning father should behave. And because he didn't behave in conformity with their beliefs, that was another reason to suspect he was guilty. He had a criminal background. Hobbs had just been released from prison. He had a history of alcoholism and violence fueled by his alcoholism. He had threatened a mobile park owner in Texas with a chainsaw during a dispute over rent. And he had had previous altercations with his wife. But there was never any violence involving the children. And as the wife said from the beginning, the anger was only directed at her, and usually only after he had been drinking. He was, by all accounts, a doting father. But still, he had a criminal background, a red flag, and a reasonable red flag. Hobbs said, "I did not kill them girls during the middle of this 20-hour ordeal." Police believe that if you don't name the victim, if you don't acknowledge the victim's name, that you must be guilty. Since he called them girls instead of referring to his daughter as Laura and her friend,